Welcome to Peak Talent, the podcast that explores what really makes the difference on a journey to success and high performance. I meet with leaders and athletes to discuss their leadership, lessons learned, and advice. I'm Danny Trudel, and my goal is to bring you insightful conversations that invite you to see your journey and leadership in a new light, while uncovering the secrets and contagious inspiration of surpassing yourself. In this episode, I'm excited to welcome Imran Gibbons, a senior finance executive and business leader. He is also an avid sportsman and a dedicated father of two. I wanted to explore what it takes to lead in finance today, the secret to his success, how he finds balance in a demanding career, and his insights for the future. We'll begin with his perspective on the challenges and opportunities in finance and business today. Together, we'll discover what it means to lead beyond the numbers. Imran Gibbons is the Vice President of Finance at Velan, a global manufacturing company where he leads global FP&A, treasury, and North American finance. He has over 25 years of experience in finance across various industries. Imran holds a BA in Commerce from Concordia University and is a chartered accountant. Since 2019, he has served as a judge for the John Molson International MBA Case Competition, sharing his insights with the next generation of business leaders. An avid sportsman, Imran is a former soccer goalie who stays active with tennis, pickleball, and pickup basketball. He is also a proud father of two. I first met Imran when we worked together at McKesson and Novartis, and more recently we connected through a coaching relationship. I'm excited to share his story with you. Happy listening. Hello, Imran. Welcome to the Peak Talent Podcast.
Thank you, Danny. Nice to see you.
Always a pleasure. And let me start by congratulating you on your career and the impact you have in finance and leadership. It's quite amazing.
Thank you.
So before we dive into your journey, and as a finance executive and leader, I'd like to get your perspective on the challenges and opportunities that you see in finance and business in general, but more particularly the impact that it has on emerging talent and leadership.
Yeah, sure. I think the finance function has evolved so much from when I first started, over 20 years ago, and finance had always been perceived as being very transactional. And over the last 20 years, it's evolved into being more of a business partnership role and really, partnering with the business, understanding the business, and helping the business make more strategic decisions, to improve profitability, to either get them into a transaction where they can acquire a company, and to grow their business. So I think that that's how finance has evolved. Now, I think finance has many different facets. You can stay in reporting and transactional. You can go into strategic finance. You can go into taxation. But all of those roles have evolved in their need to partner with the business. But you probably hear a lot about now is artificial intelligence and AI, and now that's changing so many different functions and transactional functions. So I think what's a critical part for new students and that want to get into finance, it's going to be their ability to adapt to AI. So it's really going to be about not thinking that AI is going to replace your job. Will AI replace certain transactional functions? I think so. But it's going to be, how do I use AI to my benefit? How do I use AI to work better, to work smarter, to maybe move away from the transactional work and get into more strategic finance? So I think that as the finance function evolves, what we're going to be looking for are talent that have that ability to be flexible, to adapt, to learn new tools, to make their jobs more efficient, more effective, and to help make better decisions for the business. And so that's where I think that's where the finance that role is evolving.
That's interesting. And what do you think for the population in general when they think about finance, or even for someone like me who's done most of their career in HR? Like, what should we look out for?
In terms of talent,
Or in terms of our own knowledge in finance?
well, I think in your own knowledge of I think how you have to perceive finances differently. I think that stigma of being those accountants, and I
Yeah.
have no objection to being an accountant because you need to understand the accounting and the transactional. And if you're working with IFRS or GAAP, you need to understand those basic principles. But if you want to be a finance leader in an organization, then that's how you have uh, to really take the time to understand whatever business you're in.
Mhm.
If you're in a SaaS business or in software business, sit with a programmer, sit with a coder, see how things work. How do you get your software? How does it work? If you're in manufacturing, then take that time to go out on the floor and walk around and see how product comes together. So
Mm.
I think that's how the function is changing. Like if you
Okay.
really want to evolve as a leader and you want to, and I think that's how you make a difference, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now if I we look at your journey, if you
Yeah.
look back, what got you where you are? And what's your secret to success?
Well, it's funny because I never really wanted to go into finance. So
Oh,
I
really?
wanted to be a lawyer. Um,
Okay.
and that didn't really happen, but I married a lawyer, so maybe I got somewhere else. But I started off not being very good in math. And you think that math as being the basis of accounting and its numbers, but I was never really good. And then I had in high school, I had a teacher. He was like a mentor to me, and he really coached me a lot. And I used to go every single day to this teacher's office and to get extra help. And that formed the basis of me starting to enjoy math and love math. And then I ended up like doing very well in math. So then I still wanted to do law, but I'm thinking, well, I was pretty good at math, so maybe the natural progression was me to go into accounting. And so I was successful in the early years of my career because I had that kind of analytical mindset. But then if you sort of fast forward, I think what led to me being more successful and was really again being mentored by someone uh, uh, at McKesson. And so I think you may have known Todd Baldanzi. He was the CFO, and I worked with him very closely. And I think that again, it was someone in my life that was instrumental to making me, work better, work smarter, and thinking more strategically, presenting better. And so, if you think back early in my career, I didn't like math. Someone was a mentor who helped direct me and put me on the right track. Then in my career, I think I was going on the right track, but then you meet someone that's really instrumental to helping you change from being a finance manager to someone who has the potential to be a finance leader in more of an executive role. And so I
Mhm.
think it was really meeting Todd and working with him, and he had a great career within McKesson that really helped me evolve and to really just work differently. Think about how how I operate, get myself more organized. It was really, really back to the basics, but then also thinking more strategically, and my ability to present, communicate finance concepts to non-finance managers.
Mhm.
And so that was really started my more of my evolution into I think being a better finance leader.
So if I think about what you said, it's people, so pivotal people maybe, or people that really made a difference, but also stepping into areas that were unknown,
Yeah, I think
right?
you always have to get into you're out of your comfort zone. I think that's what helps you. And I think getting out of your comfort zone happens. It should happen. Doesn't at every different part of your career. When you're young, you're going to do things that you don't know how to do because everything is new and you're learning.
Mhm.
And if I fast forward now, 25, 30 years later, I'm at where I just worked on two major transactions of the company that I'm with today at Valent. And some of the things that we've done in this transaction I've never done before. But it's getting into that the zone of where you may not necessarily be comfortable, or doing something that you've never done that can excite some people because it's the challenge. And you
Mhm.
have to not be afraid to go in and do something different. And this is the basis of everything that I do. Never be afraid to ask questions. And I'll be honest with you, I was on calls with a lot of lawyers at big law firms, and we're doing very complex transactions. And it's okay to ask questions that you don't know, because when you ask the question, when you don't know, well, then you know what? Once you get the answer, you're going to know going forward. And
Mhm.
so I think that that's one key part of being a leader is to ask questions and listen.
Yes. So I hear that it's having humility.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
reaching out if you need it.
exactly. And that's the same thing that you do when you're early in your career. It's that humility. And when you're early, you're just, you're learning as you're going. But that should be a natural, that should be an ongoing, evolution. You should always be asking questions and
Mhm.
listening and be humble because, you know, there's always something that you don't know. Right.
And can you identify either key moments or decisions that you made throughout your career that really impacted where you are today?
The decisions that I made or opportunities that I was provided. Um, I think that the decisions that I've made are just never being afraid to take on a challenge. So that's the first decision. So if I think back when I was at McKesson, our CFO at the time had moved into another role, and then I was asked with another person who was the I think VP Finance at the time, to kind of co-lead the CFO role, and then take on the ownership more on the FP&A side, right, the financial planning analysis side, and then was asked to go down to a corporate office and present the results to the board of McKesson with the president at the time, who Alain Champagne.
Yeah.
And so at first it was like terrifying because this is like, it's different with presenting to your finance team and then presenting to a board of a multi-billion-dollar company. But my decision was not to say no. My first response was all yes, and I didn't even think that no was an option. So
Mm.
you got to say yes, and you're going to be nervous. That's natural,
Mhm.
and but you just have to be prepared. Being prepared is always the antidote to being nervous, right?
Mhm.
Be
Mhm.
prepared, know your material, and as long as you can do that, you can go in with confidence. Then, of course, your delivery and your communication. It's not going to be the best when you first start off, but it's going to always get better.
Mhm.
So I think that was a decision that I made by not saying no, by saying yes, and not being hesitant and just going full force into it. And I think that for me was like another pivotal change for me because it removed any fear that I had, presenting to large groups, to boards or to other, executives.
So leaning in.
Yeah,
That's
it's very
great.
important. Yeah.
And what do you think your leadership style is, or the kind of leadership style you've embodied throughout your career, and how do you think it's developed over time, and how does it serve you?
Yeah, I think the one, this you can think about leadership styles, and there's a whole different types of like theoretical leadership styles. The one thing that I'm not is like autocratic, right?
Mm.
So that's not my style at all. And then if I think about it, I'm more of a blend of many different leadership styles. I think, as I've said earlier on, I like to listen, and but I think that the challenge for a good leader is to one set very strong performance objectives. So
Mm.
performance driven leader who really wants to drive for results, set targets, and achieve those targets. But you have to also have an empathetic side because people are people and people have challenges on their day-to-day work with workload. Things get tough. They have personal issues. So that's the balance that I think that I have to try and strike. You have to be performance driven, drive for results, but then at the same time be empathetic because people they have life issues and life things that they have to deal with. So you have to balance that to be empathetic with people. And then, of course, I've been fortunate enough to been um, mentored by people in my past, by great leaders. So I try my best to provide whatever leadership and guidance that I can to the people that I manage on my team. And it's
Mhm.
being honest and transparent and giving them guidance where things are not going well.
Mhm.
So I think that's really how I manage it. I don't think there's any really secret sauce, but I really move away from being autocratic and just, you know, it's all performance driven and believing in your people.
Earlier, you were talking about relationships, and we've known each other for a while, and I feel like you also have that skill, that connection with people.
Yeah, I
Uh,
hope so.
so
Yeah.
your leadership style, and I've seen you as a financial leader that's very driven on building relationships and partnerships.
I try my best. I think that, and those partnerships are not just within your finance team, they extend across, the organization.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier to get things done when you are cordial and have a good relationship with people, right? And I
Mhm.
think that's the basis, right? It's the basis of being a good person, right?
Even when you drive for results.
Yeah, you have to. But there's two different ways to drive for results. Like, and again, it's that autocratic style, or there's
Yeah.
more of a you can still, and that's the balance. That's the challenge to being performance driven, but being humane at the same time, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And you also strike me as someone who's very calm and that can handle pressure.
I do. I probably internalize some. I
Yeah.
do internalize some, but I think I do have a nature to just be a little bit more, more calm.
Yeah. I'm sure it serves you well.
Yeah, I think you have to focus on what you can control, right? There's always going to be things that you can't control, and you can't get yourself overly stressed out. But it's normal. It's normal to still feel that stress for things that you can't control. But focus on the controllables, right?
What you can control.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, many leaders find inspiration and strength in their personal life. I know that you're a soccer player.
It used to
I
be.
think I think a goalie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
And today, I think you play tennis or pickleball.
Yeah. Right now, I'm playing a lot of different sports, but yes, I'm playing pickleball, tennis. Yeah, playing a little pickup basketball. So yeah.
Oh yeah. And so, what lessons have you learned from sport that has influenced the way you lead?
I think that people play, and even today, I feel like I can't be a super competitive basketball player or soccer player, 30 years later past my prime. But um, so some people play for fun, and some people play for exercise and enjoyment. I think I still play because I want to win.
Okay.
So I think that I think that's what sports gets out of you. And I played team sports, like I played rugby and I played football, and then I played, more individual sports. Um, but I think ultimately you always want to win. So even when I play now and I want to win. So if you have that winning mentality, you take that to everything that you do. It's always competitive. It's going to be competitive with your peers, with your colleagues, and also, with other companies that you're competing with. So being competitive, I think, is what drives you to be, uh, even better.
I see you smile when you talk about competitiveness.
Yeah, I know. It's because I played some pickleball yesterday with some friends, and we're like all super competitive. Even, so it's funny. It's
Okay.
funny at this age you're
That
still
follows
strong.
you. That
Yeah.
follows you.
Yep.
And how does that translate into your I guess your leadership?
And it's, well, you set that winning mindset in everything that you do. So now I just recently went through a full fiscal year with Velen, and we set targets of what we wanted to achieve. And I can talk about what was public for the last few quarters. We set targets to achieve, and they were all about growth. And
Mm,
every one of those quarters, we delivered growth. And after you deliver that quarter, when you close the results and you did what you wanted to do, there's a certain level of excitement. And so that's the excitement and the motivation that you want to drive with your team. Because if they're excited, then they get motivated because they made a contribution to
mm,
delivering on results. And then you won, right? So if you win, you know, you deliver your results, you win every month, you win every quarter, you do what you were supposed to do, that motivates the team. And I think that's exciting to watch. So, Velen right now has gone through I think a big transformation over the last 4 quarters. Obviously, largely driven by the sales teams and production to getting things done. But I think that finance, as I mentioned earlier, was a business partner in enabling a lot of that success.
mm. So it serves you well. So you and we go back a little. We mentioned it earlier. We worked at McKesson Canada, and more
Yeah.
recently in a coaching relationship. So, what led you to coaching, and what benefits did you get?
Well, like I said, I think you need to be surrounded with good people uh, that will course correct where help you along your career. And sometimes you're in a role in a position where you're not necessarily getting that full fulfillment from your manager. I strongly recommend that if you're not, go and get that guidance from a coach. And you were very helpful for me during a certain part of my career where I needed a little bit of course correction and setting my own milestones that I wanted to accomplish in my career. So I think that you shouldn't be hesitant to seek out that help when you need it. And so I think that that's what people should do if they're doubtful. Do I need a coach? Do I not? I think everyone needs a coach. Sometimes they need a life coach to help with their personal stuff. Sometimes they need a coach with their career to help them,
Mhm.
set the right direction of where they want to go, focus on their strengths. And I think what you helped me do is I think you can sometimes focus. We always say that we have strengths and weaknesses. Everybody has strengths and everyone has weaknesses. That's normal. But sometimes you got to focus on those strengths. Make those strengths as strong as possible, and you're always going to have some weaknesses. But as long as the weaknesses are not detrimental to your career, make
Yes.
those strengths as strong as possible so you stand out. And
Hmm.
and so I think that's what you helped me do. And when we start to focus on, where my strengths are and how I've highlighted what my strengths are throughout my career, and then to sort of map out what would be my next role.
I commend you for that. You actually, you mentioned it earlier, but seeking people to help you and continuing to grow as a person. So that serves you as well, I guess, along your career, but still today.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So balancing senior leadership and personal life can sometimes be challenging.
Yes.
What strategies help you maintain your focus and your energy, and what advice would you give to those who are striving for balance?
I think first of all, it's on a personal side, but you have to find a great partner, right? So, I'm fortunate enough that I've got a great wife and a great partner. She's also got a very demanding career. She's a lawyer. And so I think what you have to do is you have to prioritize as a couple. So,
Mm.
you know, family always comes, family always comes first. And dealing with your family and prioritizing, if you have kids, then prioritizing your kids and your spouse are always, top of mind. And then you start to prioritize on your work. What's more important? Do I need to work in the evening? Do I need to work on the weekend? And, how do I balance my day to day? But ultimately, it comes down to organization and prioritization of tasks, right?
Mm.
And that's something again that you learn very early in your career. My wife also is very, very organized, more organized than I am. That's where my weakness probably is a little bit. Um, but it's really about organizing, prioritizing. And then if you have a team, you have to find out when you can and trust people and to delegate tasks so that you can help them develop as well. But at the key at everything, it's really about organization, because your personal life can become overwhelming and then you don't have time for your work life. And then if you don't organize your work life, then you don't have time for your personal life. So
Mhm.
organization, writing things down, um, prioritizing what needs to be done, setting due dates. And I think that setting a due date is always the key, because if you don't, then things kind of lag. If you hold yourself to a due date, then that helps on your workload for sure. Because and always set your your due date prior to when it's actually due, obviously, right?
Okay.
But it's really about managing tasks and setting due dates and managing that in your work life and your personal life for sure.
And how do you stay at your peak? Now, you talk about balance, but there's health and there's finding space for yourself. So
Yeah.
how do you stay at your peak?
Exercise is definitely key. And so I think throughout my career, I've kind of been like up and down in terms of like sometimes you do more and sometimes it's less. I think now I've gotten to a regime where exercise is like good for your mind. So you've got to get, your 3, 4 times a week exercise, whether it's taking a walk, riding a bike, going to the gym. That definitely relieves whatever stress that you might have. As calm as I am now, you always get internalized stress. So I think taking care of yourself, you have to find time. And really, it's not a lot. If you take 30 minutes every day, and it's not a lot out of 24 hours, right?
Yeah. So organizing your time, prioritizing what's really important for you, integrating activities or physical activity in your daily or weekly time are things that you do
Yeah.
to stay at your peak and balance.
Yeah, exactly. And holding yourself accountable, right? So if you set a goal that I'm going to go to the gym 4 times this week, then at the end of the week, did I go those 4 times? How long did I go? It's like again, I'm super competitive with myself. I'll look at my Apple Watch and how many calories did I burn and how many days did I go. So I think that it's also holding yourself accountable for your personal life, but also on your work life. Always be
Mhm.
accountable for what you do. If you didn't do,
Mm.
if you messed up, then you messed up. It happens. Be accountable.
Yeah. So you're still very active, which
I try to be. Yeah,
is good. It's good. I'm sure it helps mentally as well,
for sure.
not just physically, as you said, to relieve stress. Now, I want to talk a bit about the future. Uh, how do you think leadership and education can evolve to better prepare the next generation of professionals and leaders?
I think for education, um, I think that a lot has been done just on developing like co-ops and getting that work experience as you study. Um, I think that that should be a fair area of focus for young students who are studying is to get that work experience. Um, it's not always easy, because you can be in a co-op, you can't, and getting those summer jobs, uh, if you can, within a company to actually learn how a company works. If your objective is to be in finance, well, take that opportunity to be in finance, and maybe you're filing, and maybe you're cleaning, you're doing, the work that no one else wants to do, but you're in an office environment, and if you're in an
Mhm.
office environment, you're going to listen, you're going to hear, and you make find that right leader who brings you in and wants to tell you a little bit about how the business works. Um, so I think that's so critical for young students in studying is to try and get whatever practical experience they can. I think that's going to help them one to figure out what they like and what they don't like, um, and then it just help them in the longer term.
Mhm. And what do you think about leadership? How can we better prepare young professionals in that space?
I think that young professionals have to take the time to listen, right? And I told you in the onset that I always take the time to listen, um, but it's hard for young professionals to just go online and read about leadership because it's all theoretical, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So find someone that you know, or someone, a friend of a friend, or someone who knows someone who's in a good position that can, and just get that opportunity to mentor someone, to be mentored, or just listen to them. Yeah, I think really that's the key to partner with someone. Like we said at the beginning, it's about people, right? And so
Yes.
finding those right people, networking is very important. At university, they've got a lot of networking events. Never say no to a networking activity because you never know who you're going to meet. And even at this stage of our lives, when we're more advanced, we still network and we go to networking events to expand our knowledge of different industries, businesses, just meet different people, diversity in your knowledge of what you do and learning more. So it's this constant evolution of learning. So my advice is get that opportunity to take whatever job you can in a business or in an area that interests you, whether and it's going to be at the lowest level, but that's going to be so instrumental for you. Latch on to someone that can help you and give you some sort of guidance, and then just network. Always meet people. Never say no to meeting people.
Mhm.
Never be shy. There was when I was, I'd say a couple of years ago, one of my neighbor's sons, he was very interested in finance, and he didn't, he wasn't sure of what he wanted to do. He knew I lived across the street from him that I was in finance, and he never hesitated to come across the street, talk to me, say, "Hey, can I come by and ask you some questions about the finance field? What are my options?" And so um, that's the ambition that he had and the initiative that he showed. And how can you say no, right? So, but you have to have that ambition. You have to have that initiative, to and never be afraid again to go and talk to someone and get their advice. And
Yeah, and I
so,
kind of connect that to leadership. Having the courage
yeah,
go and ask someone. So it takes leadership as well to just take that step.
yeah, exactly. And he did, and he's done so well. Like he went to university, he ended up being in finance, not accounting, but more corporate finance, and then got a great job somewhere. So,
So you had an influence on his decision. It's
well, I
pivotal.
mean, he used his own, he knows his own initiative, but hopefully I kind of helped him a little bit.
Yeah. And we're already at my last question, Imran. So I'd like to leave the audience with a reflection. So what's one thing you'd like them to reflect on when it comes to their own leadership journey or purpose?
And I think I mentioned it earlier. I think when you reflect on how you want to develop, um, I think you should never be afraid.
Mm.
You should always go into everything with courage and conviction that you're going to learn something out of the journey. And it may not be easy. You may not understand things, but at the end, you reflect and think, wow, that was amazing. I had a lot of I had some fun. I had some difficulties, but at the end, I came out better. So you should always go into something with, um, with the thought process that I'm going to be better at the end. So never say no. Be courageous for everything that you do, whether you're being offered a promotion, whether it be offered a lateral move to do something different that you've never done. It's going to be a learning step to get to something different. Whether you're asked to get into a transaction or do something that you've never done. If you really want to advance your career and be a leader, you got to take those opportunities. Although they might seem difficult at first, they're going to have so many more rewards at the end.
Hmm. There were many things in there.
Yeah.
Be open to new things. Think that you'll be better after.
Yeah.
Have courage. Never say no. Try new things. But at the end of the day, it's really having a growth mindset and leaning in.
Yeah, exactly. You have to always think that you're always growing, and that's the same thing that you tell your kids as they're earlier, and my kids now are 16 and 18, so they're really early, they're really young, right? So you have to tell them to take that course that you didn't think you would like. Maybe you will like it. You know,
Mm.
if you're playing U16 soccer and you get an opportunity to play U17 for a game, then take that opportunity, right? So it starts at a very early age, right? And if you have that mindset, like you said, that growth mindset when you're young, hopefully it continues with you as you grow. It doesn't have to be in your career. It could be anything that you do, right?
Mm.
Never be afraid to do something different.
You know, you haven't mentioned this, but it kind of makes me think that also is don't be afraid to fail.
Exactly. We're all going to fail. We're all going to get and do something that, you know what, we could have, and failure is a tough word, but maybe you do something that you thought you would have been more successful, right? I'm always hard on myself. Like I could make a presentation and I'll come out and I'll think I didn't do as well as I thought I wanted to. It's not necessarily a failure, but it's maybe well, I could have done better, right?
Mhm.
And we're always going to feel that we always could have done better.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's okay to set the bar high, right? Because maybe your perception of not doing as well is different than what others may have seen, right? But it's also okay to really not do well because you'll learn from it.
Yes. Congratulating yourself for doing new things and hard things
Yep.
and
That's
being okay with the results.
exactly. Always. Yep.
Yeah. Well, this was very interesting, dear Imran. I really want to thank you for taking that time to answer all my questions and share your journey with us.
Well, thank you. It was really good, Danny. I appreciate it.
In this inspiring conversation, Imran shares how his journey wasn't a straight path. He started out struggling with math, but with the help of a teacher and hard work, he turned that challenge into a strength. Along the way, pivotal people guided him, and his own determination pushed him to grow and step outside of his comfort zone. The secret to his success? Mentorship and mindset. Saying yes to new challenges, asking questions, staying humble, and always being prepared. He believes learning never stops, and stepping into the unknown is where real growth happens. Sport taught him competitiveness, pride in reaching goals, and the drive to keep improving. That winning mindset still fuels him today. His leadership style? A blend. Imran leads with a clear focus on performance and results, but always with empathy. He listens, supports, and builds strong relationships. Calm under pressure and naturally competitive, he inspires his team to aim high and celebrate success together. His advice for the next generation? Get in the game early. Take every opportunity, co-ops, internships, summer jobs. Listen, learn, and don't hesitate to ask for guidance, to reach out to leaders. Leadership starts with curiosity, courage, and making connections. His final reflection? Say yes, even when it's tough. Step into challenges, keep learning, and don't fear mistakes. They're part of getting better. Growth comes from doing what you've never done before. So, what challenge will you say yes to today? Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Peak Talent. If this conversation inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our goal is to bring you insightful conversations that shed new light on your journey and leadership, while uncovering the contagious inspiration of surpassing yourself.